My name is Ava Sterling, and I'm 29. From my small apartment in Denver, my phone's vibration cut through the evening quiet. A single message in the family group chat had just detonated my life. The words written by my father were a clinical execution. You are no longer a part of this family. Beneath it, two small hearts appeared, one from my mom, one from my brother. Their agreement was instant and brutal. There was no phone call, no discussion, just a digital severing. They believed they were finally clearing the path to my grandmother's inheritance, convinced my brother was the one keeping their world afloat. My response was typed with a strange, icy calm. Thanks for confirming. They were completely oblivious. The truth was about to bring their carefully constructed reality crashing down. I swiped over to my banking app. The balance stared back at me, but it was the transaction history that held the real story. Every single utility bill, every insurance premium, the mortgage on their beloved house, and even the seed money for my brother's string of pathetic, failed startups. It was all linked to my name, all paid for by my relentless hustle as a freelance graphic designer. Years of sleepless nights, of meals skipped to meet a deadline, of my own savings being systematically drained, had been poured into sustaining their comfort. And all the while, they showered him with praise, celebrating him as their generous provider. In their eyes, I was just an obstacle, a roadblock to my grandmother's money. They had swallowed his lies whole, never once acknowledging the sacrifices I made in plain sight. Their betrayal wasn't just a personal wound, it was a colossal miscalculation they would soon regret. By 11:47 p.m., their entire world built on my silent labor would begin to fracture, and I was the one holding the hammer. Before I tell you exactly how their greed imploded, I want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? Have you ever been cast aside by family over a misunderstanding about money? Let me know your city and your story in the comments. You won't believe how this unravels. Their words echoed in my mind, pulling me back through a lifetime of being the background character. Growing up, I was never the main event. That role belonged to my brother, Liam, who at 33 was still the family's golden child. He was infallible, and his every whim was treated as a top priority. I, on the other hand, existed in the periphery, and my work as a freelance graphic designer was waved off as just a little job. My father, Richard, a stern 56-year-old patriarch, saw Liam's ambitions as a source of family pride, no matter the cost. My mother, Susan, 54, was his dedicated enabler, her praise for Liam endless and her blindness to my efforts absolute. They operated under the grand delusion that he was the one paying the bills, maintaining their home, and bankrolling his own entrepreneurial fantasies. The reality? Every single cent flowed from my bank account. It all began when I was 24, right out of college, trying to make a name for myself with small freelance gigs. My dad called, his voice clipped and businesslike, asking me to cover the water bill. "Your brother's working on something big," he'd said, a phrase that implied my own work was small and insignificant. I sent the money, assuming it was a one-time thing. But soon, one time became the electricity bill, then the internet, and eventually the homeowner's insurance for the very house they'd boast about at every neighborhood get-together. I paid without a word, watching my savings dwindle as Liam soaked up all the glory. "He's taking care of it," my mom would say, her adoring smile fixed on him. I never corrected her. I believed that this was what family did. You carried the weight, even if you carried it alone. Liam's business ventures were a black hole for my finances. His first idea, some kind of fitness app, needed a website. Naturally, they came to me. "You're good with design," my dad said, not as a compliment, but as a directive for free labor. I pulled all-nighters crafting logos and user interfaces while Liam was out pitching his idea to investors who, unsurprisingly, never materialized. When the app predictably failed, my mom just hugged him and cooed, "Next time, honey. You'll get it next time." I received a brief nod followed by a request to cover the next utility payment. They just assumed he was funding his trips, his new equipment, and his software subscriptions. It was all me, and they never once questioned it. The situation took a turn when my grandma Eleanor passed away a few years back. She had left me a trust, a modest sum intended to secure my future. I overheard my mom whispering to my dad about it during a holiday dinner, talking about securing it for the family. They never brought it up with me directly, but their demands intensified. Liam's second venture, a doomed cryptocurrency platform, needed a cash injection. He needed $25,000 for marketing. "Liam is building something real, Ava," my dad insisted. I made the transfer, postponing my own crucial software updates, telling myself it was my duty. The platform imploded within months. There were no refunds, no apologies, nothing. And yet they still looked at him as the provider, never asking where the money was coming from. When I was 26, I tried to confront my mom. "Why is it always me paying for everything?" I asked, my voice tight with frustration. She just sighed, stirring her tea without making eye contact. "Liam has big plans, Ava. You're fine on your own." My dad overheard and immediately changed the subject to Liam's next brilliant idea. I bit my tongue, swallowed my anger, and paid the car insurance bill that had just arrived. Their home remained warm, their cars ran, and their lives continued seamlessly, all on my dime. No one ever asked me how I was managing. No one seemed to notice the late-night hours I worked or the fact that my own fridge was often empty. The lowest point came last year. Liam's third startup, a food delivery app, needed a quick loan for what he called emergency costs. He used my credit card for $10,000. I had to cover the overdraft, forcing me to live on instant noodles for weeks. My dad called it supporting his vision. My mom texted, "You're so dependable." Dependable, yes, but also invisible. They genuinely believed Liam was covering the mortgage, the utilities, and even the property taxes. My name was on every single account, every policy, every payment slip, but he was the only one they saw. Looking back, their delusion was shockingly complete. They knew about Grandma Eleanor's trust, saw it as rightfully theirs, and assumed Liam's imaginary success was funding their comfortable lives. My role was simple: to be the silent financier, expected to give endlessly and ask for nothing in return. I had always trained myself to be composed, to organize my life with the same precision I used for my design files. Everything neat, controlled, and in its place. But with them, that control was an illusion. Their text message wasn't a new betrayal, it was just the first one they had the guts to say out loud. I was no longer their daughter, I was an obstacle. And as I was beginning to learn, obstacles can be moved. My banking app glowed in the dark room, a beacon of a truth they had spent years ignoring. After their message, sleep was impossible. My mind was a racetrack, replaying years of thankless sacrifice. I tapped open the banking app again, going deeper this time, pulling up every single transaction I had ever made for them. The figures were damning. Every utility bill for their house, electricity, water, gas, every insurance premium for their cars and health, the mortgage that they never lost a night's sleep over, even the seed funding for Liam's parade of failed businesses. It was all me. Every dollar had been scraped together from my freelance work, earned during late nights hunched over my computer, all to keep their world spinning smoothly. I had always told myself it was my duty, my role as the reliable one. That's what family does, right? You step up. I had justified it over and over, believing I was just helping my mom, dad, and brother maintain some stability. But as I scrolled through years of payments, thousands just for their electricity, monthly transfers for their car insurance, a mortgage I had to co-sign just to keep them from foreclosure, their silence on the matter became deafening. They never once thanked me. They never asked how I was able to manage it all. They simply believed it was Liam, their golden child who could do no wrong. My contributions were completely invisible, erased by their unwavering faith in him. The realization settled in not like a sudden shock, but like a slow, creeping burn. I wasn't just supporting them, I was being methodically exploited. Every bill I paid, every personal sacrifice I made, was immediately credited to him. When their water heater broke last winter, I wired $800 for the repair, skipping my own internet payment to do it. I watched my dad pat Liam on the shoulder and say, "Good job taking care of us, son." My mom just nodded, her eyes fixed on him, not me. 2 years ago, when their car insurance lapsed, I was the one who covered the hefty reinstatement fees, living on cheap ramen for what felt like an eternity. At dinner that week, they raised a toast to Liam, praising his sense of responsibility. My bank account was drained, but he got the credit. Liam's startups were by far the worst of it. Beyond the $25,000 for his crypto scheme and the $10,000 for his delivery app, I had covered countless smaller expenses, software subscriptions, cloud storage, and even his stupid business cards. Last year, I paid another $15,000 for his latest concept, some sort of niche food delivery service that never even launched. He bragged about it at a family barbecue, and my mom beamed, "You're making us all so proud." I just sat there, eating my burger, my contribution completely unnoticed. They assumed he was funding it all, never questioning how a chronically failed entrepreneur could afford such a lifestyle. I leaned back, my phone still glowing, a tightness in my chest. I had genuinely believed I was holding the family together, that my purpose was to give without needing recognition. But they didn't just overlook me, they actively erased me. Their plot to cut me out and claim Grandma Eleanor's trust was built on this foundation of lies. They saw Liam as the provider and me as the disposable, inconvenient daughter. The truth was so much sharper. Without me, their house, their cars, and their entire lives would fall apart. I needed objective proof, something to anchor me in this newfound, dizzying clarity. I texted Chloe Vance, my best friend and a razor-sharp accountant who already helped me track my client invoices. "Can you check something for me?" I typed, my hands shaking slightly. She replied instantly, "Send it over." I began forwarding screenshots from my banking app, a digital breadcrumb trail of every payment, every transfer, every line item that tied my finances to their existence. Chloe was meticulous. She was the kind of person who could spot a calculation error in a tax form from across a room. If anyone could validate what I was seeing, it was her. While I waited, I pulled up the mortgage documents. I had co-signed on their house 5 years ago to prevent it from being lost. The title was in my name, a crucial detail they had conveniently forgotten. The insurance policies, health, car, and home, also listed me as the primary payer. Even Liam's startup expenses, which had routed through my accounts, were documented down to the last cent. I had thought I was being a good daughter and a good sister, but now I saw it for what it was. I was their bank, nothing more. Chloe called back within the hour, her voice calm but firm. "Ava, this is insane. You're covering absolutely everything. Utilities, insurance, their house. There is not a single trace of Liam's money anywhere in these records." She paused for a beat, and then her voice dropped. "You need to protect yourself. This isn't just them overlooking things. This is exploitation." Her words were the final nail in the coffin of my denial. I wasn't just invisible, I was being bled dry. I thanked her, promising to send more details later. The banking app remained open on my screen, a map of their betrayal. I wasn't ready to make my move, not just yet, but I was done being their shadow. A call from my friend shifted everything I thought I knew. Chloe's voice was sharp and urgent, cutting through the haze of my morning. "Ava, you need to see this," she said, her tone clipped. She had spent hours combing through the financial records I'd sent, bank statements, payment histories, everything linked to my name. What she uncovered wasn't mere oversight, it was criminal. My dad had forged my signature on official documents to try and access the trust left by Grandma Eleanor, the modest sum she had left me for my future. He had attempted to siphon funds, assuming I would never notice, all while plotting to cast me out. Chloe emailed me the proof. Scanned withdrawal forms with my name written in my dad's distinctive, slightly slanted handwriting. There were 3 separate attempts, each for $5,000, dated over the last 6 months. The bank thankfully had flagged them, requiring my in-person approval, which is the only reason the withdrawals were prevented. "This is fraud, Ava," Chloe said quietly. "You are the sole beneficiary of that trust, yet Richard has been actively trying to steal from you behind your back." I just stared at the screen, a knot of ice forming in my stomach. They knew about the trust, had known for years, and instead of ever talking to me about it, they schemed. They operated on the assumption that Liam was their provider, and I was just the obstacle standing between them and their prize. I didn't hesitate. I logged into my banking app, and one by one, I froze every single account tied to their lives. The utilities, the car insurance, the health plans, and the mortgage on their house. My name was on every payment, every policy, every lifeline they had so carelessly taken for granted. With a few clicks, I suspended all automatic transfers. Electricity, water, internet, all cut off. The mortgage payment due next week was put on hold. I wasn't being cruel. I didn't cancel the services permanently. I just stopped being their bank. They would have to figure it out for themselves or finally learn what no longer family truly meant. Next, I drafted an email, my fingers steady despite the rage simmering just below the surface. "As of today, I will no longer be covering your expenses," I wrote. "All utilities, insurance policies, the mortgage, and any of Liam's business ventures are now your responsibility. You will need to manage them yourselves." I addressed it to my dad, my mom, and my brother, and I hit send without a moment's hesitation. The email was cold and professional, like a final invoice to a difficult client. There were no accusations, no emotional pleas, just the facts. They had built their entire world on my money while crediting Liam, and now they were left to face the truth. Within an hour, my phone blew up. My mom called first, her voice a trembling mess. "Ava, what's going on? The power is out. We need you to fix this." I let it go to voicemail. Her words were a nauseating mix of panic and entitlement. Liam texted next. "Why are you doing this to us? I thought we were a family." I didn't respond. My dad's message was a block of furious text, demanding I stop this nonsense and think about your mother. He, of course, made no mention of the forged signatures. He didn't apologize. He just fell back on guilt, the same tool he'd used to keep me in line for years. They actually believed they could shame me into compliance. I called Chloe back, needing her steady perspective. "They're freaking out," I said, summarizing the flood of messages. She didn't miss a beat. "Good. Let them. You have the proof, Ava. Those forged documents are a serious crime. I'm going to pull more records to see how far back this goes." She promised to check the trust's full history for any other attempts I might have missed. Her voice grounded me. "You are not the bad guy here, Ava. They crossed a major line." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. The weight of their betrayal felt heavier, but so did my resolve. Their attempts to control me didn't stop. My mom left another voicemail, her tone softer this time, pleading. "We're your family, honey. Liam needs you. Please don't do this to him." I deleted it. I recognized the tactic immediately. They had always used Liam as a shield, painting him as the one who truly mattered, the one I had to protect. My dad called next, his voice booming through the speaker. "You are being unbelievably selfish, Ava. Fix the accounts now or you will regret it." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my decision was firm. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were just scared of being caught. I went back to the trust documents Chloe had sent. Grandma Eleanor's will was crystal clear. The trust was for me, set up to secure my future, not theirs. My dad's forged signatures were sloppy and rushed, as if he never imagined I'd bother to check. Each attempt had been denied, but the intent was unmistakable. They wanted that money, and they believed Liam deserved it more than I did. I forwarded the documents to my personal email, saving them for whatever was coming next. Chloe suggested I get a lawyer to protect the trust and hold them accountable. This could get messy, she warned. I agreed, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Their panic escalated. Liam sent another text, this time accusing me of actively sabotaging the family. He claimed he had always paid for everything, completely oblivious to the reality of his situation. I almost laughed. His startups, their house, their entire lives, it all rested on my shoulders. My mom's next call was a full-blown sob story claiming they were going to lose the house without me. I didn't answer. The email I sent was my line in the sand. They could either step up or sink. Their desperate attempts to guilt me, to pull me back into my old role as the silent provider, only made my clarity sharper. They had forged my name, lied about Liam, and now they were facing the consequences. Chloe texted me, confirming more discrepancies. Smaller withdrawals had been attempted under my name, all of them blocked. "You need to lock this down now," she urged. I immediately contacted the bank and added a new layer of security to the trust, requiring two-factor authentication and in-person verification for any and all changes. The process was fast and efficient, a digital shield against their greed. I wasn't just protecting my money anymore, I was reclaiming my life. Their house, their comfort, their lies, they had built it all on my back. Now they were about to learn what happens when that foundation cracks. My phone screen flooded with notifications, their lies now spreading like a virus online. Mere hours after my email had severed their financial lifeline, my mom had taken her grievances to a local Denver community Facebook group. She was painting me as a monster. Her post was a long, rambling wall of text filled with accusations. My own daughter's greed is tearing our family apart. She's hoarding her grandmother's inheritance and has left us with absolutely nothing. My dad jumped in, adding a comment. "She's always been selfish, keeping money that should have helped us all." Liam's comment was the sharpest. "Ava has abandoned us for cash. We are struggling because of her." Their words stung, but not as much as their sheer audacity. They were twisting the entire narrative, casting me as the villain while conveniently hiding their own attempted theft. The group had over 5,000 members, neighbors, old classmates, and people who had known our family for years. The comments started piling up, and most of them were buying the story. "How could she do that to her own family?" one person wrote. Another added, "That's heartless cutting them off like that." I scrolled through the comments, my jaw tight, watching their lies gain momentum. They made no mention of the forged signatures, the years I had paid their bills, or the trust they had tried to steal. They expertly framed Liam as the responsible provider who had always kept the family afloat, while I was the ungrateful daughter, hoarding my grandma's money. Then, Sarah Jenkins, our longtime neighbor who was about 45, dropped a comment that changed everything. "This isn't right," she wrote. "Ava has been paying your utilities, your insurance, and your mortgage for years. Liam hasn't contributed a single dime. I've seen the bank statements my sister got from her on the HOA board." Her words landed like a bombshell. Sarah's sister was on the Homeowners Association board, and I'd confided in her years ago when I was forced to co-sign the mortgage. The truth, exposed in a single well-placed paragraph, turned the entire tide. The group erupted. A former teacher of mine commented, "Wait, Ava paid for all of that and you're calling her greedy." A local business owner chimed in, "I hired Ava for design work. She's always been incredibly professional, not selfish at all." Another neighbor added, "I saw Liam driving that fancy car last year. I thought he was doing well. Was that Ava's money too?" The questions multiplied, each one peeling back another layer of their carefully constructed facade. People started tagging my mom, dad, and Liam, demanding answers. "Explain this," one person wrote. "Why lie about who has been paying the bills?" The outrage shifted, and the sympathy for my family evaporated. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Sarah's words were more than enough, and her credibility as a neighbor gave them undeniable weight. She messaged me privately a few minutes later. "Ava, I couldn't just stay quiet. They've been bragging about Liam for years, but I knew you were the one keeping their lights on." I thanked her, my hands trembling. Her comment wasn't just support, it was vindication. The community, once on their side, was now asking questions my family couldn't possibly answer. Their house, their cars, their comfort, it was all financed by me, not Liam. The lie they had built was crumbling under the weight of public scrutiny. My mom tried to do damage control, posting a vague reply. "This is a private family matter. Please respect our privacy." It backfired spectacularly. A commenter shot back, "You made it public the second you posted here. Now answer Sarah's claim." My dad's response was even worse. "You don't know the whole story," he wrote, but the group wasn't buying it. A friend of Sarah's wrote, "I've known Ava since she was a little girl. She is not the type to hoard money. What is the real story here?" The pressure was mounting. Their posts were getting buried under a flood of accusations and demands for the truth. Liam, in a desperate move, doubled down. "My sister's lies are hurting us. I have always supported this family. She's the one who walked away." It was a Hail Mary, and it failed. Sarah commented again, this time directly replying to him. "Liam, I saw Ava's bank records. You didn't pay for the house, the insurance, or your startups. She did. Stop lying." Her words were blunt, final, and the group latched onto them. Screenshots of my payments, which I had shared with Sarah's sister years ago, began circulating privately. I hadn't asked for that, but I wasn't about to stop it. The truth was out, and it was louder than their lies. By evening, the group was buzzing with speculation. A local realtor posted, "If Ava's name is on the title to the house, she has every right to stop payments. That's not greed, that's fairness." Another neighbor added, "I thought Liam was some big-shot entrepreneur. Was that all fake?" The community's tone had fully shifted from sympathy to disgust. Their support was now with me. My mom, dad, and brother stopped responding, their silence a deafening admission of guilt. They had miscalculated, thinking a public smear campaign would force me to back down. Instead, they had exposed themselves. I called Sarah, my voice steady but full of gratitude. "You didn't have to do that," I said. She laughed softly. "Someone had to. They've been using you for years, Ava. I'm just glad it's finally out in the open." She had witnessed my family's dynamic for years. My dad's stern demands, my mom's blind devotion to Liam, their casual dismissal of me. Her comment wasn't just a defense, it was a reckoning. The group's reaction proved that their lies couldn't stand up to the truth. Their posts were still there, but the comments kept coming, hundreds of them now, most condemning their accusations. A few of our family friends reached out to me privately, apologizing for believing the initial story. "I had no idea you were covering everything," one wrote. I didn't reply, but each message felt like a brick being pulled from the wall they had built around me. The community's outrage wasn't just about money, it was about fairness. It was about exposing a family that took and then tried to destroy the person who had given them everything. My mom sent a final text that night. "Please, Ava, talk to us. This is getting out of hand." I didn't respond. Their public attack had backfired. The pressure was now entirely on them. The group's questions grew sharper, demanding proof of Liam's contributions, proof they simply didn't have. They had tried to control the narrative, but Sarah's truth had flipped the script. The lies, the greed, the betrayal, it was all laid bare, and the community wasn't about to let it go. The weight of the exposure settled over me, but it wasn't heavy. It was freeing. I wasn't the villain they had painted me to be. I was the one who had carried them, and now the whole world knew it. The chime of my doorbell broke my focus. I'd been scrolling through the fallout on the Facebook group where Sarah's comments had completely dismantled my family's narrative. I opened the door to find my mom standing there, her face pale and her eyes red-rimmed from crying. She didn't wait for an invitation, stepping right into my Denver apartment, her voice trembling. "Ava, we need to talk," she said, clutching her purse like a life raft. I crossed my arms, remaining silent. Her presence felt like an invasion, just another attempt to drag me back into their drama. She sank onto my couch, the words spilling out of her. "We're losing everything. The house, the utilities. Liam can't handle this on his own. You have to help us." Her voice cracked, but I caught the subtle shift. She wasn't here for me. She was here for my brother. I leaned against the wall, letting her exhaust her talking points. "The inheritance from your grandmother was meant for the family," she said, her gaze darting around the room, avoiding my eyes. "We thought you would share it, but you've just shut us out. Liam needs it for his next project." And there it was, the truth they had hidden behind years of false praise and entitlement. They had fully intended to claim Grandma Eleanor's trust, believing it was theirs to divide, with Liam's needs at the center of it all. I finally shook my head, my voice firm and steady. "You think Liam has been paying for your life? The house, the bills, his startups? That was me, Mom, every single cent." Her face froze, her lips parting as if to argue, but I cut her off. "You knew about the trust, and you never told me. You stood by and let Dad forge my signature to try and take it." Her eyes widened, a flicker of genuine guilt finally passing through them. She didn't deny it. Instead, she doubled down, her tone growing desperate. "Liam is trying so hard, Ava. He's the future of this family. You're strong. You don't need the money like he does." Her words were a familiar sting, but this time, they didn't move me. I had spent years buying into the idea that family meant total sacrifice, that my role was to give without question. But now, seeing her beg on behalf of Liam while completely dismissing me, I felt nothing but a cold, hard clarity. "I'm done," I said, my voice low but resolute. "I have carried all of you for too long. You don't get to guilt me into this anymore." She flinched as if I'd slapped her, tears welling in her eyes. But I saw the tactic for what it was, emotion as a tool of manipulation, just like the voicemails and texts she'd sent after I froze the accounts. She stood up and started pacing, her voice rising. "You can't do this to us. The neighbors are talking, saying these awful things. You've humiliated us." I almost laughed. They had humiliated themselves, posting their lies online only to have Sarah expose them. "You made it public," I said flatly. "You accused me of greed, but I'm the one who paid for your house, your cars, and your comfort. And you thanked Liam for all of it." She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was no defense left. The truth, laid bare for the entire community to see, had stripped her of all her excuses. I reached for a folder on my desk and pulled out a document. "This is from Daniel Croft, my attorney," I said, handing it to her. The paper was a formal notice, drafted after I had consulted with Daniel the day before. It outlined my legal intent to reclaim the house, the one I had co-signed and paid for, the one still legally in my name. "The mortgage is mine," I said. "I've covered every single payment. If you can't pay it, the bank will foreclose or I will take it back." Her hands trembled as she read the words, the reality finally sinking in. The notice wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact backed by years of my bank records and Chloe's meticulous analysis. "Ava, you wouldn't," she whispered, her voice breaking. "This is our home." I met her gaze, unflinching. "It's my home, too. I signed for it, I paid for it, and I kept it from being taken away. You thought Liam did that? You were wrong." She sank back onto the couch, clutching the paper, the tears now falling freely. "Liam needs us," she repeated, as if that magical phrase would change my mind, but it only sharpened my resolve. They had built their lives on my sacrifices while crediting my brother, and now it was time to face the consequences. I stepped closer, my voice firm. "You chose Liam over me. You lied, you schemed, and you forged my name. I am not your bank anymore." She sobbed, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. "Please, Ava," she begged. "We're family. Don't take our home." That word, family, felt hollow, a weapon they had used to keep me tethered to them for years. I shook my head. "You said I wasn't family in that group chat. You don't get to take that back now." She stood, her face a mask of fear and desperation. "What about Liam's dreams, his startups?" I cut her off. "His dreams were funded by me. Every failure, every dollar, I paid for it. He's not the victim here." She had no response. All of her arguments had crumbled. The legal document in her hand was my line in the sand, a boundary she could not cross. Daniel had been clear. My name on the title gave me complete control, and the forged signatures gave me grounds to pursue fraud charges if I chose to. My mom left without another word, the notice still clutched in her hand. I watched her car pull away, and a tremendous weight lifted from my chest. I had spent years carrying them, believing it was my duty. But their betrayal, my dad's forgery, my mom's lies, Liam's entitlement, had shattered that illusion. The house, their last piece of leverage, was mine to reclaim. I stood in my new apartment, a chapter of my life finally, blessedly closed behind me. The house I had co-signed and paid for was sold. Daniel's legal notice had set the wheels in motion, and after months of paperwork, the bank foreclosed when my family predictably failed to cover the mortgage. With my name on the title, the sale was straightforward. I authorized it, using the proceeds to settle the debt and retain the portion that was rightfully mine. The accounts tied to my dad's forgery attempts remained frozen pending a fraud investigation, while their cars, utilities, and entire lifestyle began to crumble without my financial IV drip. I didn't gloat or take any pleasure in their struggles, but I felt no guilt. They had made their choices. Moving into my new place was a tangible, fresh start. My longtime friend, Ethan, who was 30, showed up with a truck and a wide grin, helping me haul boxes to a bright one-bedroom apartment in downtown Denver. "You're free now, Ava," he said as he helped me stack my bookshelves. I nodded, feeling the immense weight of the past few years finally lift. Ethan had been a quiet pillar of support through the whole ordeal, checking in after the infamous group chat and offering me his couch when the stress became too much. His steady, uncomplicated friendship was a reminder that I wasn't truly alone. We spent the day unpacking, his easy laughter filling the space as we arranged my design tools and furniture, building a life that was unequivocally mine. I opened my phone and stared at the budgeting app I had used for years to track their expenses. Every utility payment, every insurance premium, every dollar funneled into Liam's pipe dreams. It was a digital ledger of my own sacrifice, a record of how I had allowed them to drain me. With a decisive tap, I hit uninstall, and the icon vanished from my screen. That small, simple act severed the final tie to their endless demands. I no longer needed to monitor their bills. My money, my time, and my energy were now my own. For the first time, I was able to recognize my own worth, not as their provider, but as myself. Ava Sterling, the woman who had built a career and a life for herself, despite their greed. Word trickled back to me about my family, neighbors still buzzing from the Facebook drama shared updates. My mom and dad had moved into a cramped rental apartment, their savings depleted and their pride shattered. Liam's latest startup pitch had, of course, collapsed. With no investors, no funds, and no me to bail him out, his entrepreneurial career was over. They had tried calling, leaving a string of voicemails that I deleted without listening. My mom sent one last text, "Ava, we're struggling, please." I didn't respond. Their struggles were no longer my responsibility. They had lied, forged my name, and smeared me publicly, all while betting on Liam as their savior. Now they were left with the reality of his failures and the consequences of their own betrayal. That evening, Ethan sat across from me as we shared takeout. "You okay?" he asked gently. I smiled, a real, genuine smile this time. "Better than okay," I said. "I always thought family meant giving everything you have. I was wrong." He just nodded, understanding without needing to press for more. The support from the community, from Sarah and from neighbors, had shown me that I wasn't the villain they had tried to create. I had carried them for years, and in the end, their own lies had cost them everything. My new apartment, my new life, was proof that I could stand on my own 2 feet. The fraud investigation was still ongoing, Daniel had told me. My dad's forged signatures could very well lead to criminal charges, though I hadn't decided if I would press them. Freezing the accounts had been enough for now, forcing them to confront their actions head on. The proceeds from the house sale were more than enough to pay off any lingering debts, invest in my design business, and start completely fresh. New clients started coming in. My portfolio grew, and my name became associated with my work, not with their demands. I was no longer the invisible daughter or the silent bank. I was building something real, something that was entirely mine. Looking back, the lesson was painfully clear. I had allowed their expectations to define me, equating love with endless, unreciprocated giving. But family isn't a contract to sacrifice your own worth. Their greed, for money, for control, for Liam's hollow dreams, had blinded them to my value. I had paid their bills, saved their home, and funded their lies, and they had credited my brother for it. Now I knew better. Putting myself first wasn't selfish. It was survival. I had given them years of my life. I would not give them my future. I thought of others who might be listening to this story, caught in similar, suffocating traps. Don't let anyone, not even your family, dim your worth, I would tell them. You are not their bank, their shadow, or their scapegoat. Set your boundaries, protect your heart, and be brave enough to walk away when you have to. Your value is not defined by what you give to others. It's in who you are. That hard-won truth was my freedom. I had carried their weight for far too long, but now I was standing tall. My life was my own. Their lies were nothing more than a fading echo.